Hi guys, welcome to the Strange Man channel. In this video I will tell interesting stories. What was your "this person is on another level of stupid" moment? Story 1. I locked my purse with my keys and cell phone in my apartment. I went to the office to ask maintenance to let me in. The woman at the desk said she would call maintenance and asked for a phone number they could reach me at. I said there wasn't one because my cell phone was locked in my apartment. She insisted she needed a number. I said I could give her the number but that I wouldn't be able to answer if they called. She suggested I get my phone out of my apartment so that I could answer when they called. I rolled my eyes at her and said if I could get in my apartment to get my cell phone I wouldn't need maintenance to let me in. She never did understand me, but maintenance did show up 10 minutes later. Update, since a lot of people are asking. You don't need a key to lock the door to the apartment, just to unlock it. On the way out the door, I turned the lock on the back of the doorknob and then pulled the door shut, locking the door. I had put my keys in my purse because I was also carrying a laptop bag and a few other things. I thought I picked up my purse with the other bags, but I hadn't. Yes, I know I was stupid for locking myself out. Story 2. This was my first experience in retail where I learned what many customers would be like. Seasons were changing, so we put a lot of shirts we had to get rid of in the front and made them 50% off. I was working the register when a woman came up to buy her things. I rang her up and could see a look on her face like something was wrong. That's when the following happened. "Lady, why is this so much?" "Me? Pardon me? Lady, this should only be $10, not $20. I thought that maybe her item was on sale, so I asked if she could point out the sign because I wasn't aware of it. It was a small store and we didn't have to walk anywhere. "Lady, this sign here." "Me, this sign says that all shirts are 50% off." "Lady, yes, so why is this full price?" "Me, this is a hat." Story 3. Spent 7 years working for TSA. Had a pretty sweet detail where I would assist passengers who did not have ID or assist TSA agents if they had questions about the validity of the given ID. I get a call on the radio asking for assistance in verifying an ID. I come over and ask what the issue is. Agent hands me a driver's license and says can't accept this Canadian ID. Hearing this, I assume it's expired or the wrong name. I take a look and see that it is an Alaskan driver's license. I quickly approve the passenger and send them on their way. I then spent 10 minutes explaining that a Canadian DLs are acceptable according to TSA regulations and Alaska has never been a Canadian territory. This coworker has a master's degree in mathematics and served 25 years in the US Air Force. Story 4. Summer camp counselor made all the kids on a school bus keep the windows up on a hot day because they could feel the air conditioning coming from the front of the bus. It was so hot and I had to explain to the 40-year-old counselor that the air conditioning they were feeling was the wind coming in through the bus driver's open window. She still didn't believe me. I begged her to ask the bus driver to confirm the bus did not have air conditioning, but she didn't want to bother him while he was driving. It was like a 1-hour bus trip. She finally got hot enough and asked the bus driver if the bus had air conditioning, and he jokingly said the bus only has air conditioning when the windows are down and the wheels are turning. She then looked back at me and said, "See, I told you the bus had air conditioning," and proceeded to force us to keep the windows up. Story 5. My friend is allergic to walnuts. One day, he made this sandwich in our college dorm. It had walnuts garnished on top of the bread. I then remember him telling me, "Oh look, there's walnuts on here," and proceeds to eat the entire sandwich. I leave to shower and when I come back there are 2 paramedics in our dorm taking him out on a stretcher. The following day I asked what happened, to which he replies something along the line, "I accidentally ate some walnuts which I'm allergic to, and by the time I went to get a Benadryl, my throat had started to close and I couldn't swallow it, so I had to call 911. I was just utterly shocked how he even let this entire situation happen. I really couldn't believe it. He had known there were walnuts on the bread and still ate it. College days, am I right? Edit. He knew he was allergic to walnuts, but he's very careless, so it was one of those YOLO moments. Luckily, I don't think he did that ever again. Story 6. High school teacher here. I gave a multiple choice quiz to a student this year. I go to grade the first question and instead of choosing option A, B, C, or D, he wrote in his own option and circled it. I don't know. He went on to do this for roughly 2/3 of the questions on the quiz. I appreciated the honesty, but guessing to have a chance at some points or at the very least just leaving it blank might have been a bit wiser. Oh well. Obviously I followed up with the kid to see what the deal was. In the end we sorted things out. I wouldn't say they were on another level of stupid, they didn't do school in the traditional way. Ended up having a great year together. Story 7. I've commented this before once or twice, but my stepbrother was baffled that dogs were colorblind because he saw his reflection in our dog's eye and it was in color, not a black and white reflection. So how could the dog be colorblind? I tried explaining it to him and I don't think he really got it. Another instance, he thought babies were born aged 1. I told him no, that's not how it works, so he tried to count back from the current year to his birthday year. Lost count a few times and got confused, then decided it was an agree to disagree situation where neither of us could be sure who was right. Bruh. Oh, another thing, he told me he thought every book should have a quick summary of what's happening and who the characters are on every page, because he was sick of picking up a book after a while and forgetting what was happening and who the characters were. Story 8. While driving from one big city to another, I stopped in a small town to eat at a fast food chain in Texas. I order my food, get my orange number tent and sit down to wait for my order. The lady who's bringing out orders has this I give up demeanor as she's calling out numbers that guests aren't claiming. Each time this happens, she speaks to a couple tables to seemingly figure out who food is for. Then I hear her call for number 55 while holding a tray of food for one person. I was number 54 and noticed I was the only single party guest there. We make eye contact and she heads towards me. She confirms my order with me and says sorry, for some reason the computer prints one number higher. I immediately ask, well then why don't you just call out one number lower than what's printed? She freezes and I can see the gears turning in her head. I tell her thank you and she goes on her way. Story 9. Was out working on building a shed with my dad, my uncle and my cousin who once we decided to take a short break he was looking for a chair but instead found an old car battery that was removed because it was leaking. After a few minutes later he was wondering why his ass felt like it was on fire. The battery acid ate through his jeans and underwear and burned his skin. He then proceeded to touch the battery acid and burned his hand too. My dad was looking at him and wondered, how do you function? Later the day he sat on the same battery but with something covering the acid so he won't get burned again. Didn't work. Also I work tech support for a cable company, and I had someone call in because their phones have no dial tone. Asked him what type of phone he has and he didn't understand, so explained to him if it's a cordless phone or a corded. And he said cordless, and I asked him what happens when he hits the talk button. His answer was, why do I need to do that? When I pick up it should have a dial tone. Told him press the talk button and once he heard the dial tone I hear oh. Then he hung up. Story 10. I work in a large furniture factory. There's lots of machinery that could injure you very badly and even kill you. I had been there for about 2 years at this point and I've seen so many people come and go, the turnover was insane. There was this one kid who always seemed to be not the brightest. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt and stop being so judgy. He ended up turning on a blade and sticking his hand into it. The machine is basically a router table, but the router bit isn't just sticking out of the middle of the table, it was attached to a raised back edge on the table with a shroud over it. There's an off/on switch on the side of the table. You can see the table is clearly plugged into an electrical outlet. Anyway, this kid came over to the table and wanted to know what it was. Instead of asking someone who had worked there longer than him, he decided to flip the switch and find out himself. He heard a noise start up after he flipped the switch on and figured that was our air vacuuming dust collection system. Then he decided the best way to get the answers he wanted was to obviously stick his hand in this loud strange hole. He ended up with minor injuries, but refused to take a drug test after the incident, so he was moved to a position that doesn't involve any machinery. Well guys, if you liked the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Bye everyone.